All right, I'm gonna make another video. This video is inspired by a video I saw recently, or didn't watch yet, but I heard about and kind of came up in my feed. It was from Metal Mickey, and another guy did another video. I'll put their links below. It's about 90s death metal and 10 albums from that era. And I'm gonna do one album per year from within my collection. These are just albums that I own. I'm not doing like a best of, a definitive list or anything like that. These are just 10 albums that I own, and I'm going to do one per year starting with 1990. And the first album is Atrocity. This is Hallucinations. This is a German death metal band. They actually went to Florida and traveled to Morrisound Studios and worked with Scott Morris to record this album. This is an original press of Hallucinations on Nuclear Blast Records, which is their, that's their old logo there. This is a really good death metal band, a really good death metal album. Their second album, Todush Such, is I believe how you say that, is even better. Those two albums, this album and that album, are just fantastic death metal records. I highly recommend kind of both of them. Todush Such I would recommend over this one, but this is still a really good album. This is actually a concept record too, kind of about a woman who, has an incredibly horrible childhood, gets into drugs, and I guess eventually dies and ODs by the last song. So it's a pretty tragic story of the album and the concept of the lyrics. But yeah, the music is really good. It's kind of technical death metal, I guess, maybe early. It's not like super fast though, like the, Archspire kind of tech death stuff. It's not like that, but there's a lot of time changes in here, a lot of interesting rhythm guitar parts that are, just cool to listen to. A lot of bends, a lot of, kind of sounding guitars on there, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this one's from 1990. 91. '91, Immolation, Dawn of Possession. This came out on Roadrunner Records. This is a fantastic album. This is more like speed, fast death metal, basically throughout. They also have the bends in their, a lot of their songs. So, there's a lot of interesting guitar parts too, but it's more straightforward than that Atrocity record. Still really good. These guys are from New York, and this album came out in 1991. Looks like April 1991, and came out on Roadrunner Records. This is a really good album. This is a repress on, I guess it's a purple or a violet color. It has some black in there too. So yeah, really, really great record. I had this record originally on cassette when it came out, and yeah, fantastic. 1991. In 1992, Dutch band Gorefest came out with False. This album just has tons and tons and tons of great riffs on it. Really, really good. Kind of mid-paced death metal. These guys toured, there's a little thing in here. This is a repress as well, obviously on the clear with the red splatter and red and white splatter. But on the insert in here, they talk about how they toured with Death and how Ed Warby joined the band. And I love Ed Warby because he drums for Arjen Lucassen and the Arion Project and Star One. And, pretty much anything that Arjen does, Ed Warby drums for him. But yeah, this album in particular, this is great mid-paced 90s, death metal. This album I don't think it got really big, but I had it on cassette. I got it on cassette at a record store, back in 92 when it came out. And mostly I just, there's a lot of really good melodic, riffs on here that are just really memorable and really great. And yeah, they ended, I guess on the insert in here, like I said, they toured with Death. They toured the United States, they toured, other places too. So this was kind of like an album that kind of broke the band, I guess. And it's really good. If you can get this on a repress, it's really good. Really good riffs. All right, this next album is kind of a spiritual successor to that album right there, in my opinion. And this came out in 1993. And this is Edge of Sanity. This is A Spectral Sorrows. This is Dan Swano's project. He produced, wrote most of the songs on here. And he, did a bunch of albums with Edge of Sanity, including one I'm going to show a little bit later. That came out a little bit later than this. But this album is fantastic. Every song has riffs that you're going to love and that are very, very memorable. Even the choruses, like there's some melodic stuff in here. So, there's I wouldn't say this is melodic death metal at all, but there is some melodicism in here that is really cool. And Dan Swano is just kind of a genius. He does a lot of producing now. Did a band with his brother called Nightingale, but he produces tons and mixes tons of death metal albums and other metal albums as well. But this is a fantastic album. I would say it's nearly, if this came first, it would be as good as Left Hand Path. But since Left Hand Path came first, obviously that one's better. And the guitar tone is a little bit different, but this still does have that Swedish sound, kind of like the, guitars. It's a little bit different, but it's still, it's definitely that Swedish sound. And these guys are from Sweden as well. So, and Dan Swano did tons of projects, with, he does the Bloodbath project with Mikael Åkerfeldt from Opeth. And, yeah, good stuff. All right, this band is a little bit more obscure. This is a reissue of the Gorement record, The Ending Quest. This came out in 1994 originally, and yeah, I had never even actually heard of this band until this reissue came out on Transcending Records. Transcending Records did a reissue of this on a few different colors. This is just a great kind of mid-paced, kind of almost reminds me a little bit of like, Paradise Lost, kind of, in that kind of vein, not necessarily doom metal, but, kind of mid-paced to slower death metal with really good riffs in here, and has that Swedish sound. These guys are from Sweden as well, and just is just a really good record. If you can get this record, it's really good. It's an underground kind of unknown, death metal band that didn't really get much traction at all when this album came out in 94. The record label that it was on kind of went under. I don't even know if there was a ton of records pressed, but then people started finding the record, wanting to repress it. So I think that's where, it's been repressed kind of on CD and stuff like that. But this, I don't know if this is the first vinyl pressing, but it's one that came out pretty recently, past couple of years. Really, really good death metal band. And this came out in 94. 94. In 95, I'm going to show some, death metal started to change a little bit. At least started to go towards the melodic death metal stuff that started to come out in 95, 96, 97. That was a big surge of bands like At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul. This album just changed, became kind of created a new version of death metal, a new brand or a new genre or subgenre of death metal, which is melodic death metal. But, still great, riffing on here, has thrashy elements, because it kind of brings in the thrash and the death metal together, but adds that extra layer of melodicism that, like each song has those, kind of groovy, melodic parts to it, that are kind of just really memorable. Great album. Of course, this album just is kind of a historical album, really. But it came out in 1995. 1996, I have to pull this out because this album, I need to show this side of it because Crimson 1 came out in 1996, and this is Dan Swano. Like Mikael Åkerfeldt actually also plays some guitar, does some vocals on here. This is an original press of the Crimson 1 and Crimson 2 double album, which doesn't have the in-between song clipping that the digital version and subsequent represses have. So if you're gonna get a version of Crimson 1 and Crimson 2, you gotta get an original version that was pressed in 2003. Make sure you don't get a colored vinyl version, or the latest version in black is also not the correct, original mastering of this album. It was mastered for digital. They kind of broke up Crimson and Crimson 2 into individual songs, maybe like 10 or so songs. And in between each song, even though Crimson is supposed to be one continuous song, there's kind of like these clips. So stay away from that. But this is an original press. This album is a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, 100%. It's one of the best death metal albums ever made, Crimson 1 and Crimson 2, honestly. But Crimson 1 came out in 1996, and it's fantastic. I'll play a little bit of it, and you get to hear, the riffs and stuff that, like, every minute or two, there's like a part that you're just like, fuck, that's so good. So good. It's like, there's very little, there's riffs that come back, but, there isn't a ton of repetition, and it's just he just keeps coming up with really cool, unique parts on that album. It's just so good. Now, I don't... Now, I don't have specifically a death metal album from 1998 or 97, I'm sorry. So I'm going to pick, this is the closest thing I have, is Testament Demonic. This is their kind of attempt at maybe death metal. Maybe Chuck's voice was, I know he had the throat cancer and stuff, so maybe he was affected and he couldn't sing the way he wanted to, but I don't know. I think kind of this was done on purpose in a way, but it's a good record. It's not their best record because it's not like Testament, it's not like Testament from the late 80s, early 90s, and it's not Testament like they are now. This is kind of a unique album for them. It does have death metal tendencies to it, like the riffing and stuff like that, and obviously the vocals. But I still think there's some really good songs on here. It's still a good album. It's just not the best Testament record, but it's the only record I have from 1997 that is death metal or death metal adjacent, I guess. 98. 98, I have Death, Sound of Perseverance. Death metal's getting more progressive now in the late 90s. A lot of the bands are, you know, there is still traditional death metal out there, but there's more bands experimenting. Death is you know, this is Chuck's last album. Over the past few albums, his vocals had changed. You know, he has this more of this scream or this rasp than his growling vocals. And I prefer the growling vocals, you know, from Human and backward. But anything after that, the music is still great. Chuck is still a genius. You know, the songs are really good. The riffing is really good. You know, the time changes are really good. There's a lot of, you know, the songs stay interesting throughout their, you know, entire runtime. And Chuck's doing, you know, some amazing work here. But his vocals are different, and, you know, the music is definitely way more progressive. Still a really good album. And And 1999, we're going to end it with Still Life from Opeth. More progressive death metal. Opeth is kind of moving even more into the progressive and adding, you know, there's even a song on here that's entirely acoustic. So, you know, like they're even moving away from death metal stuff. You know, there's a real good mix. There's a lot of clean vocals on here. But there's still a lot of very brutal, heavy parts. So, you know, Opeth is still, at least on Still Life, I would still consider them a death metal band, but they're definitely on the more progressive side of death metal. And yeah, And yeah, so those are my 10 records from the 90s, you know, or the 90s death metal in 10 albums. Thanks, Metal Mickey, for, you know, coming up with the concept, and everybody else who did some videos. Yeah, subscribe, like, comment on any of these albums. Yeah, thanks.